Hello, welcome to Compelling. I'm Katy Wellesley-Wesley. With 18 years of experience in the art world, ranging from blue-chip galleries to startups, I'm now a Paris-based consultant to brands, foundations, artists, and collectors. Thank you for listening to Compelling, a podcast exploring the dynamic intersection of art, culture, and luxury. I'll be interviewing visionary artists, cultural leaders, and brand innovators to uncover how storytelling, mastery of craft, and creative collaboration come together to build community, engage audiences, and shape lasting legacies. Today on Compelling, I'm delighted to welcome Clément Boisseau, the CEO of Maison BETC, a new micro-network dedicated to luxury, fashion, and beauty. Clément has shaped some of the most memorable brand platforms in recent years, from Lacoste to Total and Michelin, and later guided cultural communications for Chanel. Returning to BETC Group as Global Chief Strategy Officer in 2020, Clément played a major role in winning key global accounts like Amazon, Dom Pérignon, Moet Chandon, and Prada Beauty. Now, alongside his chief strategic role at BETC, Clément somehow finds the time to lead Maison BETC across Paris, New York, and Shanghai, working with clients including L'Oréal Luxe, Beam Suntory, Van Cleef & Arpels, and Yves Saint Laurent Beauty, helping them move beyond quick celebrity endorsements to tell authentic brand stories with real cultural resonance. Clément Boisseau, thank you very much for coming on Compelling to tell us your story about BETC, Maison BETC, via Chanel, and all of your other stories and influences. We're excited to hear them.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, that's, of course, it's a pleasure. And I'd like to start with your background and what led you into the agency world.
Yes, sure. So actually, I would say that my road to the agency world was a little bit bumpy, or not bumpy, but unexpected, because my background actually has nothing to see with the advertising world, because I studied humanities. I studied French literature, philosophy, history at École Normale Supérieure. And when you enter the École Normale Supérieure, you're supposed to become a teacher. So I was supposed to become a French teacher. What was funny at that time is that even if I was, of course, very into humanities, into reading, writing, and so on, I had a very deep curiosity for the corporate world. Mm-hmm. I had a very deep curiosity for the world of business. And I think it's linked to the fact that my mother was a teacher. So mm-hmm. I didn't have a lot of opportunities to understand what business was. Mm-hmm. And when I entered the École Normale Supérieure, I had this feeling that I should absolutely do an internship somewhere where I would be able to understand what is the corporate world, how economy work, how companies and brand work. And at that time, the mother of one of my best friends was creative director at BETC, which is actually the agency I work in. And she told me, come and do an internship at BETC. You will see it's really interesting because actually it's at the crossroad, I would say, between what you have studied mm-hmm. and what you want to discover, which is business, corporation, and how the economy works. So I did this internship, and it was a kind of aha moment, I would say. And I discovered that advertising is a bridge between art, commerce, and culture. Mm-hmm. And I discovered that I could, I would say, apply all the knowledge that I had acquired during my studies to something which was super concrete and tangible. And mm-hmm. it's the way I entered the world of advertising agency. And I think that it's the best place on earth to observe how society evolves, how economy work, how companies create relationship with their customers. Mm-hmm. So that's an unexpected road to advertising, the advertising world.
We're going to talk next about your sensitivity, mm-hmm. which you've described a bit with the École Supérieure, but your sensitivity for cultural understanding and storytelling is very much informed actually by your love of the arts.
Totally. I would say that I think that the place where I learned all the things that I use in my daily work was school. Not only the École Normale Supérieure, but before that. I think that all my love for storytelling, for culture, has been informed by what I learned at school. And maybe it's an unpopular opinion, but I loved school because I love meeting teachers. I love being with my teachers, being able to learn new things every day. And I think that the best way to learn is literature, is reading books, actually. So I think that I learned everything just because I was passionate about books.
And now, I mean, your mother was a teacher as well, so I suppose she was a strong influence on your sort of respect for the profession.
Actually, not so much, but yes.
But I mean, aside from your learning and reading of books, I mean, are there other cultural influences, and where do you think you developed your personal taste? Because obviously that will inform what happens later in your career.
It's a complicated question, I would say, because you're inspired by the people you meet. I mean, so I think I've been inspired by the teachers I met at school. I think I've been inspired by my first mentors in the advertising world. I think I've been inspired by unexpected meetings, unexpected encounters with people from various backgrounds and fields. And I think you learn by capillarity. I would say that you learn in an unconscious way. Sometimes, your taste is informed by how your eye records, actually. And you mix all these influences and you create your own taste.
Yeah. So now applying strategy of tastemaking to your career, how has that changed, the way that you think about strategy for a company? How has that changed in the 20 years that you've been working?
Yeah, slightly less than that, but unfortunately close to 20 years already. I would say that the evolution that I can observe in my daily practice in terms of strategy, especially applied to luxury brands, in which are more specialized. I think that a couple of years ago, when doing strategy, we were more obsessed by brand DNA, by uncovering the brand history, the brand truth, I would say. So we spent more time in depth to understand, where it came from, what were the inspiration behind the brand, a kind of, I would say, close to psychoanalysis of the brand.
Okay.
And I think that now I try to balance this approach with something that I would describe as more customer/people-centric. I think that brands are not immune to society evolutions. So if you want to do the best strategic work, you have, of course, to understand very precisely personality of the brand you work on, but at the same time to connect that to the dynamics and the evolutions of society. And I think that sometimes some strategists are considering brands like, a little bit immune to society, immune to how the world is moving. And I think that it's really important to connect both. So it's really, I think that, yes, the main evolution is that society evolutions impact more and more how brands are perceived by consumers and how they interact with brands. That's the main evolution I have observed and what I have tried to incorporate in the way I do strategy with my clients.
You're reminding me of something that I've read or either seen Steve Jobs saying about Apple, which was, as a technology company, he considered that you had to look first at what people were doing and how they were doing it and how you could make their lives easier. So as you say, completely client, customer focused.
Yes.
Rather than, here is a sophisticated technology and now let's work out how to sell it to people.
Yes. Yeah.
But what you're describing is sort of reminiscent.
Yes. And it's, I think it depends on the industry you work on. And I think that for luxury, for instance, it's not so easy because, and a little bit like tech at some point, it's so driven by creation or by innovation that you can have the feeling that creation and innovation come first, and then you try a way to sell it to the people indeed. Whereas, and it's true that if you ask people what they want, they describe something that already exists, just a little bit better. So it's not exactly the perfect way to innovate. But so you have to surprise them. In tech, in luxury, you have to entice and surprise your consumers because they do not necessarily know what could create pleasure,
they don't know
desire,
yet what they're
and so on.
missing.
Exactly. But at the same time, you cannot be totally disconnected from where they are. Because indeed, if you want to convince them to do something, to buy a new product, to try something new, you have to really understand them very deeply to be able to, I would say, leverage the right driver actually to make them realize that you offer them something which is unique.
So obviously, you started at BETC and you've now, over your career, you've come to specialize in luxury. And that's led to the founding of Maison BETC. So I wonder if you could, I mean, you're now involved with both businesses. I have no idea how you find the time, but I'm interested in how you distinguish and what was the need that you felt you were answering with Maison BETC?
I think that we needed to create a specific entity to make sure that we preserve the level of craft that luxury brands deserve. So I think that's the first reason to be create a space with the right resources, the right talents in terms of craft, but also because, as I was explaining, luxury, it's complicated because you have to understand people and consumers, but you have to go also a little bit beyond. So you have to recruit, train talent in strategy, for instance, who are able both to understand I would say mass consumption, but also to have this sensibility, this ability to capture culture, to go a little bit beyond what you expect from a strategy in mass consumption. So I think that for that, we needed to have a specific structure. Of course, capitalizing on BETC, but also adding the things that have to be added when you work with luxury clients.
I've read a number of your interviews and you coined this phrase prosumer. Which I'll let you explain. I don't want to ruin it.
Yes, so the prosumers, actually they are consumers who are predictive of what's going to happen within 12 to 18 months. So we identify them through an algorithm of proprietary questions that I won't unveil today, of course, because it's our secret recipe. But what is important is that these questions are attitudinal questions. They are not based on what people actually do, but they are based on what people declare to do about the perceptions they have in their minds. Because actually in our work, in communication, sometimes the perception of reality is much more important than the reality. So it's important to survey these people based on the stories they want to tell themselves. The big beliefs they have, the fears they have. And actually all these imaginaries, you can better understand them by questioning them about, opinions or aspiration rather than analyzing the reality of their behavior. So it's very important for us to understand the evolution of their mindsets, the big belief, the myth they have very deeply encoded in their minds.
Just to understand, when you're asking these questions, I'm imagining that you've actually got a sample of consumers that come into a room and allow themselves to be questioned.
Yes.
Right. Fine. So so that's an old-fashioned idea, but the questions you're asking them and the style of the questioning and the information that you're gathering, this is the secret formula.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. Sorry. Continue.
And I'm not sure that AI can create that.
No,
and I'm not sure that, nothing will never replace listening to people in real life. So AI is really interesting. And indeed, it's a tool that can empower creative to go faster, to prototype and so on. But I think that it will never replace just the pleasure to be in the same room than people, discussing with them, talking with them, trying to uncover hidden truth behind what they say. Yes, I think that AI is important, but nothing will replace human at the end.
This season of Compelling is presented in partnership with Cahiers d'Art, the legendary Paris publisher founded in 1926 at the crossroads of modern and contemporary art. For nearly a century, Cahiers d'Art has collaborated with icons like Picasso, Duchamp, and Calder, and continues today with leading voices such as Ellsworth Kelly, Philip Perino, Arthur Jaffa, and Rosemary Trockel. Cahiers d'Art is also the home of the legendary Picasso catalogue raisonné, known as the Zervos. This definitive 33-volume record of Picasso's work is one of the most important art publications of the 20th century. At the heart of its programme is La Revue, a landmark publication dedicated to artists shaping the past, present and future of art. And beyond publishing, Cahiers d'Art is also a gallery on Rue de Dragon in Paris, a space where art, culture and ideas continue to meet. Discover more at cahierdart.com or experience it yourself in Saint-Germain-des-Prés. I mean, we've been talking about luxury, and now the scope of what luxury brands, the ones that we've heard of, are diversifying into all kinds of areas that they never existed in before. That kind of diversification and that ubiquity now of those monster brands. What do you make of that? Can you be good at providing holidays and good at providing hotels and good at providing clothes?
That's a very good question, and I'm not sure about the answer. I think that it's totally genuine for luxury brands to try to find what's the next chapter of growth for them. And in a context where people aspire to buy a lifestyle and not only an item, and to live experiences and not only to own something, very genuinely, you can, of course, think about products and services diversifications and offer more than product, but a lifestyle. I think it's very fair point. Yet, it is important, I think, to be cautious, not to stretch too thin the brand equity. And if you look at the most successful luxury brands today, Hermès doesn't pretend to diversify, for instance. Okay, they launched the beauty, but it was correlated to the fragrance that they launched a couple of years ago, and the kind, I would say, of genuine development for a luxury brand. If we talk about a brand like Vuitton, of course, it's so big. It's the most powerful luxury brand in the world. And they have a very consistent brand platform about the art of travel. So you can very genuinely understand why they explore hospitality, for instance, as a new source of revenue and the diversification for the brand. I think that it makes sense if it's correlated to the purpose of the brand. I mean, for Vuitton, hospitality can make sense because it comes from the hospitality world. It comes from the art of travel. It comes from the trunks. It comes from all of that. So you can stretch for sure. And I think it's legitimate. But in some cases, and I won't mention any brand, you can have the feeling that it's a little bit forced. So I think that diversification is a great thing. Linked to this aspiration of consumers to live a lifestyle, to access to something which is experiential, but at the end, to work, it has to be meaningful, consistent with the heritage of the brand. It's always a balance between how you can innovate and project the brand into the future while respecting the DNA, the heritage, and the legacy of the brand. So it's really a question of strategic choices.
And so, okay, you're talking about heritage. So I'm interested in the challenges and the obstacles for launching new luxury brands. Is there something that can be done to launch a new luxury brand that can ever put it on a level footing? Or is it necessary just to have passage of time?
I think that it's necessary to have the passage of time. I think that it's not only for the question of heritage and legacy. I think it's for the question of consistency.
Okay.
Because when you work within a company or within a brand, or when you work for a brand, you know everything about the brand. So you have the feeling that you have to innovate and change and renew and so on and so on. But most of the people don't live with the brand. So they are exposed to the brand once in a while. So it's very important that when they have an interaction with the brand, they are exposed to a very consistent message. And I think that the big advantage of the legacy brands is just that they are consistent in their expression. So it's easier to create this sense of substance. When you launch a brand, you can have the tendency to seize opportunities, to capture pop cultural moments and so on, to create awareness and to boost the awareness. And I think that's a mistake, because actually you need consistency to give the feeling that you have been around for many years. And for instance, if you look at a brand like The Row, now people are, I think, start to perceive the brand as a luxury brand just because they have kept since the beginning consistency in the way they have expressed the style of the brand, the codes of the brand, and so on. So for me, it's just a question of time than consistency.
Okay. Time and consistency.
And if you look at Ralph Lauren, for instance, I think it's a very fascinating example because it's not so old.
No.
But I think that he had a very clear vision of what he wanted to achieve. It's a very cinematic vision of life.
Yeah, very like the lifestyle, as you said. It's not only clothes. It's not only interiors.
Exactly, but
it's the family.
Exactly, and I think that he had this vision and he stick to his vision.
Yeah.
So now, of course, after 40 years, we have the feeling that it has always been around.
So one of the things that a lot of brands have come under fire for is that as they have tried to increase their margins, one of the ways that they do it is looking at their supply chain. One of the ways that they squeeze the costs down is by making component parts of, for example, handbags elsewhere in the world, and then they assemble it. So they're still leveraging made in France or made in Italy, but in fact, many of the parts are coming from Vietnam or India or Sri Lanka, places that labor is cheaper. So there is this kind of trust issue, going back to the kind of the traditions of excellence and how important that is in the story of a brand. What can be done, do you think, about the kind of the luxury brand trust issue?
That's a very complicated question because, there are a lot of different types of explanation behind that. So, for instance, I would say it has been, for instance, a counter-productive defense from Chanel when they have been accused, for instance, of having a less good quality in terms of leather.
Yes.
They said the truth, which is that actually they have sold so many bags to people who don't know how to take care of their bags because, for instance, it's not a veal leather, which is more robust. It's a lamb leather, which require more care. And they have sold these lamb leather bags to people who had absolutely no clue about how to take care of their bags. So it's not so much a question of less good quality than more consumers taking a less good care of their bag. That's the truth. But you cannot say that to the people. You cannot say that to them. No, it's just you who do not know how to take care of your bag.
No.
So you see, when I say that reality, for instance, is a perception is more important than reality, that's an example. How you cope with such an issue? I think that you have to reassure and be a little bit transparent about how you produce and to show that the reality of the sourcing, for instance, of your leather, what are the gesture behind that? Because actually, most of these brands, they do not play so much with the supply chain, they play with the price, which can be also an issue, and we can touch base on that. But I think that when there's a trust issue, you have to reassure when it's very damaged. And when it's not damaged, you have to keep living the imaginary of excellence and craft and so on and so on. Hermès doesn't have the same issue of trust because I think that they have been very consistent about the fact that they say, we are not a luxe brand, we are artisan. And I think, when you say you are a luxe brand, you play with imaginaries, you play with cinema, you play with a lot of different types of universes. And you are a little bit disconnected from the product at some point. When you say I'm an artisan, I'm a craftsman, and I'm not interested by selling a dream or who associate the brand with some partnerships or whatever, and you stay very focused and consistent on the way you describe yourself, it's much easier. But it's true that this trust issue is a very complicated one, and I think that it's also correlated to the price. I think it's also correlated to the price increase after COVID, which have been a little bit
aggressive.
Yes, that's a very diplomatic way to say it. And thank you, because I was going to use a word a little bit less diplomatic.
Just going back to Maison BETC, being across 3 continents and 3 bases in Paris, New York, and Shanghai. Obviously, you are trying to reach all of those 3 consumer groups, and they have different sensibilities and different priorities. Yes. But I'm wondering, when you're designing a campaign for somebody, how do you create a clear message but still make it speak to all of those different audiences? Is there consistency, or are they different campaigns?
No, it's consistency, and I think that you would be surprised how fast consumers in the world evolve. They feel and they aspire more and more to the same things. Trends are very converging more and more. Okay. So, of course, you have local specificities that are linked to culture and heritage. But I would say that in terms of purpose, meaning, what you can capture and what you can stand for and offer to consumers, people are pretty similar in the world.
That's yeah. So and probably as you look at younger generations who are so interconnected with social media and
Exactly.
influences worldwide.
I mean, people consume more and more the same content.
Yes.
The content travel from one continent to another one. So, of course, you have to address some local specificities. I'm going to say something very stupid, but some colors, for instance, in certain countries do not have the same perception or numbers. So you have to take that into consideration. But I would say that when you work on a brand platform or a creative vision and expression, most of the time, you are able to find something which can cover all your audiences. It's important indeed to take into consideration. Sometimes, for instance, in the US, you can be a little bit faster, a little bit more lifestyle or vivid, or a little bit more pop cultural. In Europe, it's important to pay a little bit more attention to the craft or to the heritage. And China, it's actually a mix of both. But it's more a question of cursor and how you put the cursor rather than creating contents which are totally exclusive and opposite.
Going back to Hermès and their strategy, I would argue that part of their winning strategy is also just how they control access to their bags. If too many people who can't look after their leather bags are buying Chanel bags, the same can't be said really of Hermès, because there's such a high threshold that you have to kind of, there's a waiting list and everything else.
But, I think that what is really impressive with Hermès is that, of course, there's the scarcity around the bags. But at the same time, you can easily access something from the world of Hermès. The silk, or even a small leather good, and everything. I mean, even something very accessible, you feel the same sense of craft and intention. So yes, it's important to organize scarcity because it gives value. But at the same time, it's important to be generous. Hermès is very good at that, balancing the scarcity, but at the same time to be accessible in a way brand. I think that Hermès, for some people, is less intimidating than Chanel, and at the same time, they are very desirable. So it's very interesting, the dialectics in luxury, because it's not so easy.
And so, I mean, maybe part of that is that the experience of buying a key ring in Hermes is still quite a special one.
Mm-hmm. But rituals are super important to create value.
Yeah.
That's why it's not Hermes, but Chanel, I think that they made a very bold choice when they said we will never sell anything online when it comes to fashion or leather goods, because they have the feeling that the experience you live in store is unique. It's unique because you have a conversation with your fashion advisor who takes time to understand what are your needs, what is your personality, to direct you to the best product for you. So there's the quality of the human interaction. What you live in stores, which are like temples, which are really, elevated and desirable. So I think that it's really important to make it something almost sacred, because of course it gives value and it justify the experience, the price you put at the end to have access to the item. So I think that rituals, experience, in-store, physical experience are super important to make luxury really luxury.
And then at the other end, you can buy a Chanel lipstick as you walk through World Duty Free anywhere. And I know you've done a lot of work in luxury beauty. So I mean, it's such an important category for all luxury brands. The mythology, and who knows if it's true, is that a bottle of Chanel No. 5 is sold every 30 seconds somewhere in the world.
I think it's true. I think it was true, maybe, but it's still very robust in terms of sales. So maybe it's still true.
But that very accessible price point of the makeup, the perfume, this is, I can't afford a Chanel handbag, but I can get a lipstick. This is obviously, this is a delicate balance to continue to communicate the luxury, but to relate it to the kind of, the exclusivity.
First, I would say that it's not accessible for everyone. I mean, for luxury consumers who can spend $6,000 or more than that, actually $10,000 for a bag, yes, a lipstick is very cheap. But for a lot of people in the world, 60 or 80 for a lipstick is not, it's something that people can spend, but which is still a big amount of money. So that's the first thing, just because but it's true.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
For beauty brands, you have two big types of beauty brands. You have the one who come from couture. So Dior, Chanel, and YSL. They are very well balanced between couture and beauty, and that's a chance that they have because the value beauty provides to their consumer is to give access to a piece of couture without the price of couture, of course. So in that case, the way you preserve the desirability of the brand and its sense of exclusivity is to adapt and translate the couture world into the beauty world. And you have the second category of beauty brands, which are the ones who do not come from couture. If you take a Lancôme, for instance, which is still the first luxury beauty brand in the world, I think it's a little bit more complicated to ignite desirability because you have to intertwine three elements, which are the product superiority. Actually, the product superiority is more important when you don't come from couture because you have to make the proof that the value is not only associated to an imaginary, but also to what you concretely deliver with the product. So it's product superiority, it's storytelling, indeed, and craft. And I think that's when it comes to working on luxury beauty brands, it's not exactly the same drivers if you work for the first or the second category. And after, I think that the way you preserve the desirability and the exclusivity is it's not easy, but it's to craft compelling stories, to put beauty in everything that you do. I think that really desirability and sense of exclusivity is really linked to how beautiful are the things that you create at the end.
A little more about our partner. In 2026, Cahiers d'Art celebrates its centennial, 100 years at the heart of modernism. To mark the occasion, Cahiers d'Art will stage a global program, exhibitions at the Musée Picasso in Paris, at the MoMA in New York, and the Guggenheim Collection in Venice, among others. Alongside these, a landmark centennial book and new editions of the historic Revue will honour a century of creativity while opening a new chapter for the future. Discover more at cahierdart.com. When you're reaching audiences, and this is something that particularly interests me and compelling, is the idea of collaboration, of influences, whether it's artists, coming together with a brand. Have there been examples of you feeling that worked or didn't work?
Well, okay, very good. It's a stimulating question because personally, I like when brands collab with artists and so on, but it has become, I would say, a little bit gimmicky the past years because it's a kind of very easy solution to reinject dynamism and to create something new around the brand. So there's a kind of collab disease, I would say, in the luxury world. Yes, there are a couple of collabs for different reasons that I like very much. It's not very original what I'm going to say, but for instance, the collab between Loewe and the Tokyo-based ceramic studio Fujita was for me very interesting because at the same time very cultured but accessible because it was just beautiful and playful and simple. And at the same time, it was a way to show the refinement, the elevation and the craft of the brand, but I would say in a very unexpected way. So this collab for me was really spot on and very good. Curiously, I loved a lot the Kusama collab with Vuitton and even the Murakami one because I think it was, very Vuitton, powerful, massive, everywhere, a little bit showy, but in a good sense. And I think that it's a smart collab because, yes, it's true to the brand history because Vuitton was Marc Jacob was the first one to do that with Murakami on the leather good bags 20 years ago. So it was true to the DNA of the brand. And at the same time, it was very playful and funny. And so I like this collab.
So now that you are in charge of strategy and also CEO of Maison BETC, how much time do you actually spend strategizing and how much do you spend empowering people and building teams who can do it?
I think that all of that is about strategy because you have to build strategy to empower people.
Okay.
You have to, but I see what you mean.
Well, I'm distinguishing between strategy for your company versus strategy for your clients.
Yeah. I understood the question. Just joking. I don't know how to quantify that. It's true that I have to spend more time in organization, creating teams, structure, spending time to do that. So it's more strategy revolving around how to organize the company, how to make sure that we reach our goals. But at the same time, my value and the value of the company is really the powerfulness of the strategies that are delivered and how these strategies lead to creative, highly creative content. So I cannot disconnect both, I would say. But yes, for sure. I mean, I was strategist. I'm still a strategist, but I have to spend more time talking human resources, finance, and so on. So yes, it can be highly strategic topics, but it's not the same type of strategy.
So I am interested in, a few things, and you can take them in whatever order you want. Firstly, if you were advising a strategist coming into your business now, as I'm sure you do, you offer people advice all the time, what would it be? And related question, what advice were you given?
The one I'm going to give.
Oh, okay. So it was good advice.
Which is to keep common sense, to always put yourself in the shoes of the people you have to talk to, to be constantly curious, which means read everything, go to see all the exhibition that you can go and see. It's also to listen to the people around you, and not only around you, I mean people outside your circle, to listen to random conversations in the street, in the metro, wherever. I think it's, yes, to be constantly curious, constantly respectful of the people, and to always make the bet that people are smart and can understand what you want to tell them.
Mm-hmm. To treat people as sophisticated, I suppose, especially in luxury, because that is a particular group of people who have achieved, or many of them have,
or want to achieve,
exactly. Well, either or, but yes, to credit people with intelligence. What has been your most memorable challenge or lesson learned?
Very complicated question. I think that the most challenging thing I've experienced was to move from an advertising agency to advertiser side.
Okay. So from BETC to Chanel.
Chanel, yes.
Okay.
And back to BETC.
Okay.
No, I loved my time at Chanel, but it's challenging because it's not the same relationship with time. Because when you work in an agency, you have multiple clients. You have to be fast. You have to be a little bit faster than your clients, because otherwise you do not help them to learn new things and to understand what's happening and affecting their category. And I think that you have to adapt your pace when you work in such a legacy house as Chanel, where actually you have time on your side. And I think that's very difficult when you have been used to run after time. When you arrive somewhere where the first thing that you're told is you have time. So I think that it was very challenging for me as a person to change my relationship with time.
How long were you at Chanel?
A little bit more than 1 year. And I could have stayed more, but actually BETC called me back saying, we have something to offer you. And it was something that I was not able to refuse.
No. Okay. Well, that's very interesting. I mean, now, as you will, I'm sure, know, the head of arts and culture, which isn't quite the title that you had when you were at Chanel, but is somebody who came from the art world, Yana Peel.
Yana Peel, yes.
And
she arrived after I left, so
you never worked with her, but my observation is that they are really putting more and more sort of resource and promotion of what they're doing in the arts sort of in the fore. But they don't seem to, I mean, it's not in the form of collaboration. It's just alignment.
Yep.
I spoke to somebody not that long ago at Chanel who told me that there's no quid pro quo. It is just Chanel has a foundation and they're giving grants. But I suppose that it does make them look like a cultured brand. Yeah,
and I think that it's probably a smart way to create genuine connection with the art world. It's the same way they proceed with cinema, for instance. They are very legitimate in the cinema world today because they have done it in very smooth and not visible way. So I think it's a very Chanel way of doing things. And because they have time on their side, because, they do not have, to deliver quarterly results and so on. So that's the type of approach that you can adopt when you have 10 years ahead of you to create your legitimacy within a specific field.
The long-term strategy of private owners with deep pockets.
Yes.
They are lucky. Well, Clément, I think that concludes. And thank you very much for your first podcast interview.
Yes, I hope that it was okay for our first one.
Well, It felt fine to me, but the good news is we can edit out any of the mistakes. So mainly mine, not yours. I might add.
On both sides, so no, both. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Compelling, a podcast exploring the dynamic intersection of art, culture, and luxury. You can find out more or get in touch at thecompellingpodcast.com.